Welcome to Flourishing during COVID-19. This presentation is our story of responding to leaders, staff, families, and residents who asked us to help resolve burning issues like staff burnout, family dissatisfaction, reduction in quality of resident care due to task-based and compliance approaches to care, and more generally, people just wanting to help with the amount of how much distress was affecting the relationships among staff, residents, families, and leadership. We were charged with putting the most powerful and evidence-based educational tools to work to improve the experience of living and working in long-term care. Fortunately for all of us, we found the most powerful tools and techniques were also the most compassionate. I am Shoshana Helfenbaum.
And I'm Daniel Galessiere. We're so happy that you're able to join us.
This presentation is supported in part with funding from the Government of Ontario through the Ontario Centres for Learning, Research and Innovation in Long-Term Care hosted at Baycrest Health Sciences. So, a bit of background. When we started speaking to people across the province from the long-term care sector about how to help teams and families in distress engage with one another collaboratively, we were really surprised by the results. We learned things that we didn't know before, like staff, leadership, families, and residents all saw the problem differently. And they all had different goals in mind as to how education could help them reduce the impact of working and living with physical and cognitive decline. What was even more striking to us was what we were learning about the ability of relational care practices and values to rise above those differences and unite different stakeholders in a common goal of well-being. Our research led us to the power of positive questions. What we will share with you today is how that approach builds relationships, resilience, and prevents countless negative and preventable wasting of resources. The suggestions and tools we have to offer should not add to your workload. Rather, they are here to help us rethink our approach during the pandemic and beyond. For example, in today's climate, being connected to families and residents through positive questioning may mean the difference between being sued or not. And valuing our staff and asking them what brings out the best in their day might be the difference in whether or not we have staff on the floor. So, in the spirit of exploring new possibilities, let's get started.
Let's start with a question. What could a positive question like, how can we work together to bring out the best in the situation that we're facing? How could a question like that affect how people are able to communicate or contribute to a better experience of working and living in long-term care? I want to explore this a little bit further with you. Shoshana and I are now going to try an exercise where we experience the difference between a positive versus deficit-based approach to improving our lives at work in long-term care. During the activity, Shoshana and I will take turns asking each other, what brings you joy at work? Followed by, what is the problem at work? I want you to pay attention to what feelings or thoughts or sensations you might feel as you're experiencing and watching us do this exercise. You ready? Shoshana, you ready?
Sure, I'm ready.
How are you doing today?
Well, I'm really happy to be here. How are you?
Good, thank you. Shoshana, I had a question for you.
Yes.
What brings you joy at work?
Working with people I enjoy.
What brings you joy at work?
Seeing people take the time to say thank you to people who work so hard.
What brings you joy at work?
Hearing a resident humming or smiling, seeing that resident smile, somebody who can't speak anymore. That makes me really happy.
Nice. What is the problem at work?
The pressure can get intense.
What is the problem at work?
Time crunches, lots of time crunches.
What is the problem at work?
We forget to appreciate each other as much as we could.
Oh.
Okay, your turn. Are you ready?
Oh boy. Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, Daniel.
Yes.
What brings you joy at work?
Working with my colleagues. I love collaborating together.
What brings you joy at work?
When we create a product that I think is really powerful and can really help the sector.
What brings you joy at work?
Honestly, when people laugh or are smiling, when I see laughter and smiling, it totally lightens my heart.
Okay, and what is the problem at work?
Well, time crunch is definitely a problem at work.
What's the problem at work?
For me, trying to find the balance between working on my own and being able to work in groups.
And what's the problem at work?
Sometimes it feels a little bit like it's impossible to get everything done in a day.
Whew. Okay, I'm just gonna breathe for a minute because that I experienced not only hearing you talk about problems, but talking about them myself, it became harder for me to breathe. How about you? What happened for you?
I think what I noticed most was how excited in my mind I got when you were asking me what brought me joy at work, because I felt like I had so many different things, but I didn't know which one to share with you. And yet I almost felt like I had a knot in my stomach every time I heard you say problem at work. What is the problem at work? I was just like this knot in my stomach is the best way to describe it.
I totally hear you. Wow. Thanks for doing that.
Yes. Okay. So let's bring it back to you all now. I want to give you all a moment to reflect on your own experience. What was it like for you? What was your experience watching us do this exercise? And I wonder, did it give you any ideas for how it might improve your own practice in long-term care? Why don't you take a little bit of time to reflect on that thought?
Thank you for doing that. Now we're going to share some models with you that helped us form the foundations and the foundational principles for the education we created. This first model is called the DARE model, taken from the Forward to Appreciative Coaching by Diana Whitney. She is a thought leader in the fields of organizational development, healthcare, and co-founder of the field of appreciative leadership. In the introduction to the book, Flourishing Together, A Guide to Appreciative Inquiry Coaching, Dr. Whitney writes, if people are treated as problems to be solved with weaknesses to overcome, people will behave in problematic ways. If, on the other hand, leadership and coaching practices treat people as valued contributors, people will be more readily engaged to contribute. So I'm just going to share with you this model that D is for discovering strengths and how we prefer to express our gifts in what's needed. A is for applying our strengths and the values that we can bring to serve our families, our communities, and the greatest good, and ourselves, of course. And R is for reflecting on how our performance creates ripples. What was our performance and how did we impact other people? And lastly, E is about extending and expanding the contribution that we make. And now I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Richard Davidson, who is sitting to the left of the Dalai Lama, who you may recognize as a spiritual leader of a number of Buddhists around the world. So Dr. Davidson is a professor of psychology and psychiatry, and he's also the founder and director of the Center for Healthy Minds. His research interests have always been resilience and well-being, and he was such an important voice in the challenges facing our society and the discussion around that. In 2006, when his first research came out, he was named as one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people. However, the shape of his research and how he applied his research tools changed dramatically after the meeting with the Dalai Lama. Here's the story. The Dalai Lama asked Dr. Davidson if there was a way for him to use the same research tools and methods that he used to find out about challenges in our society, to ask questions about how to make our society thrive. The Dalai Lama wanted to know what could make people more kind, compassionate, and healthy. After some silence, as Dr. Davidson describes it, he answered the Dalai Lama, "Well, I'll have to think about that." But not long after, he started his groundbreaking work, which was released in 2018, on what factors enable our society to flourish. And here is the results of his first research in the outside squares and his second research over a decade later on the inside. So he shifted how we look at the problem of having an unhealthy society. He changed it to, what are the 4 societal and personal qualities that help us flourish and overcome challenges? So let's look at this for a moment and see that loneliness, distraction, lack of meaning and purpose, and negative self-talk and depression, which are challenges that face society and have so much to do with his first research on anxiety and depression, actually are closely related to his findings in 2018 that these 4 factors of connection, awareness, meaning and purpose, and insight really help our society to flourish. The next model we'll present to you is the distilled wisdom and methodology of the mindful-based practice that Jon Kabat-Zinn developed as he brought ancient teachings and wisdoms directly into science to work with people in his field of psychology, and it has spread like wildfire through psychology, education. A lot of brain health practices are based on this now. So here are the 4 pillars that he found: attention, intention, non-judgment, and awareness, which, as you may notice, are very closely related to Dr. Richard Davidson's qualities of a healthy society. And lastly, we want to present something to you that is really important. It comes directly from the field of long-term care, which is the census model derived by Dr. Michael Nolan and his colleagues in 2006. They were researching for a number of years how people could have the best possible experiences living and working in long-term care. And he used those words. So it seems he was already asking some powerful questions 20 years ago when he discovered these 6 key dimensions to make a positive difference in long-term care. And that's not just for staff, it's also for leadership, residents, family, and students. So he discovered the dimensions of security, belonging, continuity, purpose, achievement, and significance. So now I'm going to ask Daniel if he would please share how we translated the foundational principles for wellness and thriving from the key models we just reviewed in fields from as diverse as long-term care, business, and wellness research into educational and practice tools at the CLRI. We will also tell you more about how we centered the training and educational tools we developed around 2 critical behaviors that we learned over time would lead to relational care values and practices being expressed in how we work and live in long-term care.
Thanks, Shoshana. On the left of the screen, you'll see compassionate communication and collaborative care planning as the critical behaviors that we knew would drive positive change and results for individuals, teams, and long-term care homes. And here are those 2 training goals next to the founding principles we have just reviewed. The challenge we posed to ourselves was how to integrate the principles into training that would improve performance in these 2 skills and values. So, these are the educational tools we created to reflect the powerful principles we were learning that have even more relevance today as COVID-19 challenges us to work collaboratively and compassionately under significant stress. The first tool is a communication tool to support families in long-term care. It's our family e-learning course. It features the Family Huddle tool. This tool is designed for families to engage their long-term care home members in a clear, concise, and supportive manner of communication. The second tool is Team Essentials for engaging families in distress. This is our staff e-learning, where staff learn how to effectively acknowledge and reassure family members in their time of distress and clarify how they can work together moving forward. And they can learn how to practice sharing information to the full care team in an objective and efficient way. Over time, we've been able to help team members, including families and residents, to show compassion to one another and to bring out the best in distressing practice situations. In essence, we want people to show their concern for one another and to communicate in their own way that they care. We want them to be able to demonstrate that I am present. I want to know from you. What you share with me matters. How can we work together?
Thanks so much, Daniel. So now we have the pleasure of sharing with you 2 excerpts from the e-learning modules or sets of modules that Daniel just described. We created these to help teams, staff, and families flourish in distressing situations. So all of these CLRI products, as we've discussed, use best practices in compassionate and collaborative team practice and foundational principles and findings from a number of fields. After viewing these, please feel free to connect with us and to visit the CLRI website to access these modules for free and share them with your staff and with people who support you in long-term care. We ask you to consider, as you watch with us now, how you could apply this education and the practice tools in them to bring out the best on your teams, including families and residents in your long-term care home.
Oh, finally. I'm so glad that someone has picked up.
Sorry, I didn't catch your name.
This is Paul Chow. My mother, Rita Chow, is in room 501.
How can I help you, Mr. Chow?
I am really concerned about my mother, so I prepared a summary for you to make sure I am clear and effective in sharing what I need from the team. It will take me 1 to 2 minutes to read it to you now. Can you please take down a few notes to share with the rest of the care team after this conversation? The situation is that lately I have not been able to get through on the phone, and I am worried my mother is not being given a lactose-free diet since the outbreak started, which would cause her pain. The background is that before the outbreak started, I visited her daily and personally checked that her diet was being followed. It worries me greatly that her diet may not be being followed. She is living with dementia, so she can't keep track of what she is eating for herself. The action by the team is that no one has answered the phone since yesterday, when I started calling on an hourly basis until now. I recommend that my mom's care team and I make a plan for how to connect regularly by phone. I request that someone on the care team finds out if she is following her lactose-free diet, and then calls me back to confirm.
Mr. Chow, this is really helpful. As you suggested, I took some notes to share with the team, and just to confirm my understanding, I'll read you what I wrote down. You're concerned that your mother's lactose-free diet is not being followed, which is worrying you. You would like to make a plan with your mother's care team to connect regularly by phone and have someone on the team call you to confirm she is following her lactose-free diet. Is this accurate?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you for calling and sharing this information. A member of the team will get back to you as soon as possible.
Are you taking care of my mother?
Hi, my name is Shoshana. I'm a PSW and I'm filling in for someone, so I'd like to know, could you tell me your mom's name?
Her name is Sharon Peters.
Great, and your name, please?
My name is Marie Peters.
It's really nice to meet you. Can I hear what's going on?
Yes, my mother's socks are missing again, and it is the third time in 3 weeks, and I keep getting told by everybody that the socks will not go missing again, and they keep going missing, and my mother gets so upset because she loves her socks.
Of course she gets upset. I'm so sorry this keeps happening. Well, it's certainly important to everybody here to stop that from happening again. I'm wondering, would you come with me? I'd like to talk to our nurse supervisor so we can see what's really going on. Do you have a moment?
Yeah, I guess I could leave my mom for a minute or two.
Okay, come.
Okay.
Let's go now together.
Okay.
Okay.
Please feel free to connect with us and to visit the CLRI website to access these modules for free and share them with your staff and with people who support you in long-term care. We really want to thank you for joining us today.
It was great to have you with us.